commence the meeting in 1 minute. Thank God, he's on his way. He'll sort it. We're trying to sort out that feedback. Okay. Okay, members, we're going to call the meeting to order now. And I'd like to welcome you all, Fáilte Roimh Velig, to the Prennu Fiara, to the February meeting of Fermanagh and Omagh District Council. We're in the Grange Council offices in Omagh and on WebEx as well. So members connecting virtually and members in the chamber both. So I'll go straight away to apologies. And I'm going to go to Tommy Maguire, Corrior Tomas McGear Erdus. And then Tommy will get you on here.
Agora Margaret Carley, to Birch Leski alone group of hin Fianna Noct, Corrior Anne-Marie Fitzgerald, August Corrior Anthony Feely, is Federico May Anthony Lynn Nismolia. Two apologies, Anne-Marie Fitzgerald and Anthony Councillor Feely. He may join us later on.
Move now to Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies from our grouping, but Councillor Rainey and Councillor Bell are running a few minutes late. Thank you.
Okay. Moving now to Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies, but Councillor Stevens will be a bit late.
Okay, thank you. Oh. And then moving to Councillor Garrity. Is that one? Right.
My fault. Thank you, Chair. One apology, Councillor Garth McPhillips. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Donnelly or independent groupings, Councillor McAleer's indicating?
Yeah, a number of apologies due to the, I suppose, the intransigence or lack of cooperation with the Western Health and Social Care Trust about scheduling one of the public consultations in Belcoo this evening. So a number of members are absent due to attending that, but they do hope to log on remotely following it. So I have apologies from Councillor Swift, Councillor O'Coffey and Councillor Eamon Keenan, who are all at that event in Belcoo, and apparently it's a packed audience in there tonight.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Just before I move on, I might go to Councillor Robinson regarding a matter pertaining to Clogher Rugby and Enniskillen Rugby.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to, there's a derby between Enniskillen and Clogher Valley there on the 28th of January, and the rugby down the Kingspan, Belfast. I believe you were down at it yourself and watched the match. I believe it was a great match between the two teams. And Clogher Valley came out the winners of the All-Ireland Junior Cup. And it's the first time that ever has happened that a team in the whole of Ireland has won the cup twice in 2 years. No, over the 2 years have won it again the second time. So it's a credit to Clogher Valley for winning this trophy again. And we congratulate them. Maybe you would send them a letter and congratulations, Chair.
Yeah, thanks. And I know you're honouring protocol there, Paul, by virtue of the fact that Clogher received a civic reception, wasn't it, Errol, in your time as chair? So thanks, Paul, for that suggestion. Moving on now to Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was very fortunate to get an invitation also to the final, and just to congratulate Clogher Valley. It was a really, really entertaining match. You know, those things, matches of that at that standard sometimes are not free flowing. That was end to end of great excitement, and just really compliments to everyone involved in organising it, and congratulations to Clogher Valley on winning for the second year in a row, but also to Enniskillen, who are hot in their tail and probably be hot in their tail for some time to come. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Blake.
Thanks. Yeah. I wasn't able actually to make it along to the particular match. It was my dad was celebrating a milestone birthday, so I couldn't miss that on the occasion. But it was definitely congratulations to Clogher Valley to see two local teams competing at such a level. I think was fantastic and a great advertisement. So congratulations to Clogher Valley and commiserations to my old team of Enniskillen. Pity they couldn't do it, but I know that they'll keep pushing for the next time they do it. So it was a great achievement anyway to be there.
Okay, thanks very much. And as you said, Councillor Robinson, I was at the match surely, and brilliant match. Great support. Serious number of supporters travelled for the match, and Clogher have achieved a major distinction, and Enniskillen look good too. So, Councillor McClogher, he's not here. He normally speaks on rugby matters too, doesn't he? He's one of our rugby correspondents. But is he online? Well, then I need to go to him. Young McClogher, come in here. All right. John?
Yeah, I think it's a massive achievement for rugby in this whole area. The fact that we have two junior teams competing at the highest level in Ireland, and it's no easy. I mean, the mileage that both clubs put up to get to the Kingspan. I think every province in Ireland and every corner of Ireland was visited to play matches, and both teams are very young teams, so we expect them to dominate junior rugby for the foreseeable future.
Okay, thank you, John. Wouldn't have been complete, John, but for your assessment there, your rugby commentator-like assessment. Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on then, members, and we're going to item 2 on the agenda. And if any member on WebEx wishes to take down their hand unless they wish to speak on this, this one would be to confirm and sign the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 9th of January. And that was the Western Health Trust health specific meeting. And we'll just go through that then. Is that both accuracy and just accuracy initially? Okay. So accuracy only. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'll take a proposer. Okay, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Warrington proposed and seconded. Okay. Moving on then to item 3, to confirm and sign the meeting, minutes of the council meeting held on the 10th of January, 10 pages. Accuracy only at this stage. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Do you have a proposer then? Okay, Councillor Crawford and Councillor Robinson, thank you. Okay, at this stage of the meeting then, item 4, are there any declarations of interest? And in the chamber we'll have Councillor Irvine indicating.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It would be under matters arising under the council meeting 10th of January, correspondence in from the PHA. I'm a board member. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's the only declaration at this juncture. So moving on then to item 5, matters arising from the special council meeting of the 9th of January. Okay, so we'll go to page 1, page 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we can move on. Need proposer and seconder for that, done that. Okay, so then moving on till item 6 on your agenda, matters arising from the council meeting of the 10th of January. And there would be 10 pages in this, so I'll do it page by page. 1, 2, 3, 4, page 4, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. Just item 4.3 to draw members' attention to the correspondence received from the Permanent Secretary of DAERA regarding the Council's proposal that the relevant agriculture funds be devolved to the Council for dissemination. So the Permanent Secretary notes that it's not something that would be appropriate for officials to comment on or to take in the absence of ministers.
Okay. Just on the correspondence point, I'll take a proposer and a seconder to note. Okay, Councillor Robinson has proposed. Councillor Dehan online, thank you. And John's running as well, thank you. So page 4 and then page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8. Yeah, okay, over to you again, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, it's just in relation to 2 letters that we have received regarding the recently adopted healthcare motion. So the first is from the Department of Health, confirming their willingness to work with the Council on the engagement and also the proposals that will come forward. And the second is from the Public Health Agency, who have outlined their role by way of scrutiny of such proposals. So as such, while they'd be obviously willing to cooperate, there would be elements of a conflict of interest if they were to review proposals in advance. So just again, proposer and seconder to note both, Chair, to advise that we are at the moment, hopefully we will have confirmed for next week our facilitator for these workshops and the dates of the engagement. So we now have responses back from each of the statutory partners.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. No, I just want to propose to note them and just to welcome the response from the Western Trust. I was quite pleasantly surprised that they have decided to, the Department of Health. I'm quite surprised that they have took the course of action that they have. So just to welcome that, and I suppose I understand the other letter. So I propose.
Thank you, Seamus. Thank you, Cormac. And then have we a seconder for the noting of the correspondence? Councillor Garrity, thank you. Okay, and then we're going to move on. That was page 8, wasn't it? And then page 9 and page 10. Okay, thank you, members. So moving on then to item 7 on the agenda, to confirm the minutes of Environmental Services Committee meeting held on the 11th of January. Now, normally we look to the committee chair to propose, so John McLaughlin will be ready, I'm sure. And this is for accuracy only, and it's 11 pages. So page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So John, would you be inclined to propose, please?
Yeah, I'd like to propose the adoption of those minutes, please, Chair.
Okay. And have a seconder then, Councillor Robinson in first, and Anne-Marie, thank you for your willingness. And that's that one. Matters arising will be taken up at the ES committee itself. And then moving on, item 8, Mark Buchanan is our chair there, Regeneration and Community Committee. So we'll be seeking a proposer and seconder, hopefully Mark, the proposer. 11 pages again, just go through them for accuracy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Mark?
Happy to propose, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and have a seconder, Councillor Tommy Maguire. Okay, and that's agreed, members. Moving on then to item 9, to confirm the minutes of P&R committee meeting held on the 18th of January. Again, matters arising will come at the P&R committee itself, but for accuracy only here, 12 pages, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. No, just in terms of accuracy on page 4 there, it notes Standing Order 25.3. That was not the standing order that was invoked on the night. It was, it was 25.3. That actual standing order suggests that councillors are not heard from. It's not that they're excluded for the rest of the meeting, which is actually what happened. So I don't know if it's right raising this now or in the committee meeting.
Okay, I think it will be taken up at the P&R meeting itself, Emmett. Councillor.
That's quite a serious one to come back to. Thank you,
Yep,
Chair.
thank you. Okay, so that page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12. Well, just go to, of course, should have said that. P&R chair is Councillor Thompson.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. I am happy to propose the adoption of the minute.
Chair. And seconder, Councillor Armstrong, thank you. Okay, no, we'll just go for another. Okay, Councillor Barton, thanks very much. Okay, and moving on then to correspondence. Alison, would you take us through that, please?
Yes, certainly, Chair. Chair, the first letter dated 17th of January is from it's regarding a musical tribute to the late Queen to be held on the in the waterfront on the 15th of April on the behalf of the Army's national charity. Just to advise, Chair, as alluded to in the letter, this is something that would be contrary to our charities policy. So as such, we're advising members of it in case they would wish to support independently.
Okay, I go now to Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'll propose the noting of that letter, but on the back of that, as our veterans champion is Councillor Robert Irvine, there is a workshop on the 15th of March coming up, and Councillor Irvine will need council to propose that he goes to that, please. Thank you.
Okay. Go now to Councillor Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much for the correspondence, and I will second the noting of it. And I appreciate the Council's policy with regard to charities, and that will be disseminated to those that are interested in that. I can't do anything with regard to the proposal coming from Councillor Warrington. It's in regard to myself. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and happy with the noting of the correspondence, and we'll work that out between ourselves. Just with regard to the proposal from Councillor Warrington that Councillor Irvine attends the workshop, I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. For your McGear.
I'm going to carry just a question through the chair to the chief executive that surely if our charity policy rules out the council actively taking part in this occasion, surely the proposal from Councillor Warrington is in conflict with that as it's associated with the charity. Could I get some clarification there?
Chair, just to clarify, no, there's no link with the charity. It's an entirely separate event. The event in question is on the 15th of March, and it's the Veteran Services Officer the Northern Ireland Veteran Services Officer, Mr. Kinahan, and the Forces in Mind Trust workshop. So it's a workshop for the Council's Veteran Commissioners to be held on the 15th of March. And the request, I'm interpreting, is that Councillor Irvine attends as an approved duty, but it's not linked to the charity or the correspondence before us.
Thanks for that clarification through the chair. So I would the position would be that Councillor Irvine's position as the veterans nominees for the council that would cover this activity.
Yes, Chair, it would be appropriate for Councillor Irvine to attend as the Council's Veteran Champion, and equally appropriate that he would seek approval as an approved duty on behalf of the Council.
Thanks for that clarification, Chair. Cormac.
Okay, so just anticipate agreement on that matter, and we'll move on. Okay, thank you. Next item of correspondence, Alison.
Yes, Chair, I suppose this has been superseded somewhat. As members will have seen, we had written this letter, I think was back on your own proposal, maybe previously, Chair, and it was specifically regarding the clarity or the lack of clarity at that point regarding the payment of £600. So this is just from the department. Well, it was Bays. I know it's changed, I think, as of today. Just setting out the arrangements and the detail behind that.
Okay, and can I have a proposer to note, please, Councillor Armstrong?
Yes, thank you. If you'd allow me, I'd like to propose to note, it's just the final paragraph about farmers with business accounts. I mean, is there any more clarity coming forward on farm families, how they can access support with fuel costs for their homes?
No, nothing
Okay.
further. You can read that, Diana.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
and Councillor Garrity, you're inclined to second. Thanks very much. Do you want to speak on the matter, Mary? Okay, that's great. So that's proposed by Diana, Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Garrity seconded it and agreed, members.
Chair,
Next. Okay, sorry, Councillor O'Reilly.
thank you, Chair. Just for information, I am aware that the Department of Agriculture has wrote out to farmers advising them of their ability to apply for the alternative fuel payment and that for farm businesses. So that letter has arrived with some farmers at least.
Okay, thank you. Okay, about to move on to the next item of correspondence.
Thank you, Chair. This was our response to our correspondence to the Chancellor regarding the cost of living crisis, and that was following on from the special council meeting on the 17th of October. The response from the Right Honourable John Glenn MP sets out the general provisions that have been made, and as you'll have seen, there's no desire to increase the spending for Northern Ireland or any flexibility for the executive.
So that needs a proposer and a seconder. Just to note then, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Rennie. Thank you. Okay, I'll just go till Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just I suppose a comment on this letter that is kind of indicative of the lack of comprehension or the lack of understanding that this Conservative government has about the cost of living crisis, and indeed, as we've seen again today, the cost of greed crisis, the cost of exploitation crisis, call it what you will. BP reported their record annual profits as hand in hand, they scaled back their plans to reduce the amount of oil and gas it produces by 2030. The company's profits more than doubled to $27.7 billion. So that's 23
Emmett, you don't mind if we deal with that in the next letter, because it's specifically about that, the next letter?
Yeah, happy
Okay,
enough to do that, Chair, yeah.
just to indicate, also, Emmett, no real issue here, but Councillor Baird contacted me ahead of the meeting just to say he would like to talk on the matter of energy companies, but we'll hear both of you in the next letter. Okay, so thanks, Emmett, for now. Okay.
Sorry, Chair, just very briefly, and moving away from the, I suppose, the energy companies and back to the government response, I suppose, it seems to be, just reading from the letter, that the author seems to content that they really have done all they can, when I would contend that they are actually a large part of the problem. Unfortunately, the sticking plaster of this £600 payment, and although it is much needed, unfortunately, by many people, it's been earmarked or spent before it actually comes into their bank accounts. And I know that many people are actually still waiting on it, although it's supposed to be with everyone by the end of next week. It mentions the working poor. It outlines this sticking plaster approach, but unfortunately, the government is happy enough to plough on with their neoliberal agenda to allow these companies to exploit, price gouge, and generally rip off the same people that they claim to serve. Now, I appreciate what you've said in relation to the next piece of correspondence, but again, just taking to mind the cuts that are being demanded by this government across the board. We know of the cuts to the health service and cuts of provision locally. And I referenced earlier the meeting that some of the members are at tonight. The EA has been advised by the Treasury. The Treasury advised that they're providing appropriate financial support through the executive to those most in need in society. Last Friday, we learned that the recruitment of school crossing patrol staff is being frozen by the AA as part of an effort to save money. So I would query how, and I would propose actually we go back to the Minister, querying how, despite his protestations, improved or superior government spending here is resulting in cuts to child safety and child protection, because that in essence is what this is. How can the requested cuts of 110 million in the current education budget used to fund schools, staff, transport, meals, maintenance, youth services and support for children with special education needs be considered a reasonable risk? The AA board has previously said it could not make cuts of 110 million without highly unacceptable and detrimental risks. That's a direct quote. Highly unacceptable and detrimental risks to children and to young people. And seemingly the Department of Education has also asked the EA to model cuts of up to 10% for next year's budget. So I'm sure other members are aware that there are other requests being made of schools, school recruitment, governing bodies and the EA that are really completely counterproductive to the idea of education, to the idea of opportunity for the young people. And again, the majority of that budget is spent on people with special education needs. So I would like to correspond back to this Minister to see how, in the face of the actual evidence on the ground, the cuts being made, and particularly cuts being made to education and to health here, how he can justify that, and again request that his department and his government actually look to funding the very real need that we have in this district, in this area. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to give Alison an opportunity to reply.
Well, Chair, it's just maybe Councillor McAleer expanded on there in the end. I suppose it's just to note we have already made representation specifically around education. Now, not to this Minister, not to Treasury, but it is a devolved matter, those cuts. So, I mean, and I think it's quite clear in the letter that the request of the Council previously around increasing the executive allocation has not been successful. So it's obviously up to membership, but we certainly have already correspondence in the system specific on the very points that the councillors mentioned regarding specifically the challenge to the Education Authority, the impact that that'll have on children and young people, and particularly those with special needs. So we have separate correspondence in on health, obviously not specifically related to finances, but these are delegated, they're devolved matters to Northern Ireland, not the Treasury.
Okay, I'll go now to Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and as ever, very sympathetic to the points made by Councillor McAleer on that topic, although just if a proposal is going forward, I will have to declare an interest as one of Alliance's nominees to the Board of the Education Authority.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to go to WebEx now. Councillor Deehan then, followed by Councillor Bell back in the chamber. Councillor Deehan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, notwithstanding the clarification from our Chief Executive, Alison, I would like to second Councillor McAleer's proposal, Chair. This letter from Mr. Glenn is exceptionally disappointing. I mean, you know, I think that the block grant to Northern Ireland at present is insufficient to meet the needs of the population. I mean, Mr. Glenn references in his correspondence that the block grant provides around 20% more funding per head than equivalent UK government spending in other parts of the UK. But, you know, he fails to take into consideration the fact that Northern Ireland is emerging from conflict, that we have some of the highest rates of deprivation in Northern Ireland, that we are suffering as a result of inequality of academic achievement. And on foot of this, we are to see schools being expected to reduce their spending, and their budgets are already severely strained. I think that Mr. Glenn needs to reconsider, because I'm sure it's not his intention to compound the cost of living crisis and the impact that this has not only on individual families, but also on the delivery of public services, particularly education and health. I think that we really do need to make further representation to them. I fully understand that spending on education and health is a devolved matter, but the fact of the matter is that we do need a substantial uplift in our block grant, and I'm disappointed that that is not being considered at this stage, Chair. So on that basis, I'd like to thank Councillor McAleer and second his proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just listening to the conversation surrounding the potential cut, or I suppose some of them are already in, regarding the Education Authority. I think it would go amiss just to not mention quickly that this week is Children's Mental Health Week, and one of the services looking to be at risk within our primary schools and secondary schools, but as this is the week for children, we'll talk about primary schools, is school counselling services. Now, I know for a fact that 94% of schools in Northern Ireland take them up on this offer to provide counselling, and I'm sure you share my my fears that it'll be the non-statutory services that are going to go first, which not only includes the special needs education, which Councillor McAleer raised, but it will likely also be non-statutory services like school counselling services. We all know the mental health epidemic that is coming across this country, and it will be a shame if those cuts are made to our primary schools. So if there is any correspondence going forward, I would like particularly children's mental health to be highlighted in whatever correspondence, because, well, I personally feel that it's something that isn't talked about enough and certainly needs to be highlighted as often as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And obviously that will be incorporated in the correspondence. I know that the proposer and seconder would welcome that inclusion. Thank you. So that's agreed, members. Agreed. And moving on then to the next item of correspondence, maybe Alex put you on notice to come in first, maybe, on this one. Okay, so you'll be in a wee minute whenever we outline things.
Yeah, well, Chair, just very briefly, this is our letter from October of this year, response to this regarding the taxation of energy companies and to enable a windfall tax to then support those most in need. And this is the response from the Treasury.
Okay. Obviously, we'll need a proposer and seconder to note as well. So I'll go to Councillor Baird first. Councillor McAleer, if you wanted to come in next, given your indication earlier.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. As a perceived neoliberal, it may seem strange of what I'm going to say, but reading the papers there, the profits made by Shell this year were $40 billion in 22, the biggest in 115 years. And BP made $27.7 billion, the biggest they've ever had. Now, it probably helps government in one way to have high profits like that, because the higher the gross, the VAT they can charge on it. But the people on the ground filling their vehicles or using it, it's obscene, the profits that are being made. Now, in the letter it says there is a combined tax of 75%, 40 basic, and then they've raised it to 35, but I still don't see it as high enough. And I would, just as we wrote before to the Treasury, asking for an increase in the profit tax, wealth tax, on the profits, I think we should write again and ask for an increase in it, because it really is obscene. So I would propose accordingly that we write to the Treasury and do that. And just as a matter of interest, Councillor McAleer, just got to congratulate him on the way he reads his notes that are prepared for a meeting like this. He comes across very professionally.
Go now to Councillor McAleer.
Thanks very much. It helps when you put the time and effort in to prepare them, and you can read your own writing, or whoever's written them for you, I suppose, too helps.
Okay, we'll stick to the subject. Both councillors are suitably warned.
I'm a
yellow card to do it. Right, Emmett.
Chair, yeah, as stated there, the profits made by these companies is obscene, and as much as has been claimed, I don't see how the profits or the VAT being charged on this is actually being coming back to help people, to assist people, given previously the cuts that we are facing, and we're all well aware of them. as the previous councillor stated, and he's 100% right, the prices being charged to people are obscene. And when you look at the price of crude oil and you look at the price of what people are actually expected to pay, there's no correlation between what has gone in previous years and what has now been charged. I suppose it's been expressed to me, and it's a fear that many people across the district and beyond would have shared, that initially prices were driven up that high when you were paying £2 and more for a litre of diesel, that then when it dropped to 160 or 170, it didn't seem to be as bad. It was the lesser of two evils, or a serious evil. And again, as has been expressed by a number of constituents to myself, and I'm sure I'm not alone, with the issuance of the energy support payment, local retailers have actually increased the price of oil for delivery to take advantage of people who are already in a vulnerable situation. And that, to me, is completely unacceptable, is completely untenable. What we need to be looking at, I suppose, and I and a number of others have called on it before, is the renationalisation of these industries. I don't think the VAT or the increasing of VAT is working, and it's been shown year on year to be a bit of a failure. What we also need to be looking as well is price caps, because what these companies are paying and what is being charged, as I said earlier, there's absolutely no correlation. There's no mark between the two of them. You can't relate it. And as I say, the only people stand to profit are the management, the CEOs, and those who get paid the dividends at the end. We're seeing it sector on sector that this is what's happening. It's another failure of privatisation, and the sooner it's called out, not only called out but acted on, is going to be when we actually see some sort of results. So I know we've written to the Conservative Party before requesting this, and they've thrown it out the window. So I don't really see the point in writing another letter to them. But I think that's where we need to go. When you look at examples, countries like France, you can see the correlation there and what's going on here. So just to make that point, Chair, thank you.
Thanks very much. Your McGear.
Carly, thank you, Chair, and interesting discussion. And like many as a councillor in here, we would have severe problems with neoliberalism and the capitalist system and how it impacts on our people here. But just to say generally, for the public out there, when they hear on the news 27 billion profits by oil companies, while we pay way in excess of what the value of the oil is at the pumps, it is disgusting. It needs to change. I welcome the day when we can be in a position to have a discussion about how we would prepare our economics on this island with as little influence from neoliberalists as we can. It's maybe a debate for another place and another time, but certainly we need to voice the concerns of our residents who are impacted by these excessive charges. I'm very concerned to hear from Councillor McAleer that some of the local companies are increasing their prices. I haven't been made aware of that, but certainly if it's happening, it should cease. Carly, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I need a seconder to note. Okay, a seconder to note. And that would come from Councillor Crawford, I think.
I'm quite happy, Chair, to second that.
Okay, second to note and second.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's the second
both,
course
yeah,
of
thank
action. Okay. Emmett, do you want to clarify something about your attitude to the?
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, there's just one line I meant to point out as well, or highlight on the bottom of page 1 in the correspondence. Energy suppliers will be fully compensated for the cost of the energy price guarantee. So there's no cost. There's no benefit to the public. That's something that just needed to be highlighted as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so Alison, you're clear about the contents of the response? Okay, everyone's in agreement with the response? Okay, members agreed? Okay. Fine, next item of correspondence, Alison.
Yes, Chair. This is from the Housing Executive, and it's an update in relation to the changes on the housing selection scheme. Chair, members will know we have a special council meeting with the Housing Executive on the 20th. So it would be intended that we would include this matter on the agenda because there are implications, obviously, but it was just to bring it to you at the first available opportunity.
Okay. Councillor Deehan will want to comment and perhaps note as well. Thank you, Councillor Deehan.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alison. Yes, I'll propose to note the correspondence, and I accept that we can have a more detailed discussion on this topic when we meet with the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. I am aware, Chair, of the increasing incidence of homelessness, and almost invariably people who are homeless, generally through no fault of their own, are unhappy with the emergency accommodation that they have been offered. Often it's at a distance from their locality and quite inconvenient and expensive to travel to and from there. So, I mean, I think that this letter does recognise that there is an issue. I am just a little concerned regarding the proposal to reduce the number of offers made to constituents from 3 to 2. But I guess we'll have a further discussion on this at our special council meeting, Chair. But for the moment, I will propose to note. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, like Councillor Dr. Dehan, I'll look forward to the meeting with the Northern Ireland Housing Executive on Monday the 20th of February in the Green Chair, and I am prepared to second the noting of the correspondence.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
William McGear.
Gura Mogad Carly, again, just on the reading of the letter at point 1, it was pleasant to read that people are going to be given more choice as to the areas they wish to be housed in. But then, unfortunately, item 2 takes the stick as opposed to the carrot in number 1. So it's unfortunate because I'm aware of constituents in Enniskillen who were offered alternative accommodation as far away as Ballymena. You know, that's the reality of what has been done. That probably covers the housing executive statutory obligation to present them with a house. But we all know that to offer somebody from Enniskillen a house in Ballymena is not very realistic. There is a major concern and difficulty out there. And again, another concern that we will be raising with the housing executive is they were given the ability to borrow money, I think maybe 2 years ago. I still haven't seen anything coming through for applications for social housing developments lately. So another question for them on the night. Look forward to meeting them. Gurmagad.
Very good point. Serious amount of people in housing stress. We as councillors all know that. Moving now to Councillor Debbie Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a couple of points regarding the housing executive. Firstly, this will not be of any or too much benefit for anybody that can't get onto the internet or get into the office to look, because this is nearly all done online. So that's the first thing. But the other thing that I'd like to put on the agenda for the housing executive is their cut in supporting communities benefit and how that may affect the likes of Clare House in Enniskillen and other housing facilities similar to Clare House, which obviously is home for people that suffer from mental health illness. And I believe the supporting communities funding is going to stop. And it's going to be a massive issue, because where are they going to house those people? And that's come from a good source that funding is at risk. And I think we need to find out exactly, because I think there's a similar, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a similar accommodation in Oma as well that will be affected if that funding is cut to cover the rent for the trust.
Okay, so you've broadened it out a bit, but we'll conclude in a second or two on what will go into any response. Okay, Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And it's simply just to make the observation that, I mean, we as a council did agree before the new year that we would seek to engage with the housing executive specifically around the progress that they've made to date on their Ending Homelessness Together strategy. And it did just strike me, as has been mentioned previously, that elements of the changes that are to be introduced under these new rules seem to be contradictory in terms of their spirit, and that the first one would appear to suggest that there would be additional choice provided, whereas the second element, in terms of reducing the reasonable number of offers for applicants from 3 to 2, would actually seem to me, anyway, based on hearing it, be a step backwards in terms of actually advancing that particular objective. So I think that it would be wise, and indeed it'll be an important part of our work at our next engagement with the housing executive, that we actually do hold them to account on this particular detail.
Okay. Councillor Clark.
How are you doing?
You're on.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
you're on.
Thank you. Yeah, way back a couple of years ago, there was a scheme for social housing in Gortin, and like all things, it fell away because of COVID. Now, and it made no harm to put that in the agenda too, where it is. And in fairness, the former Councillor Wilson did do a lot of grafting on that too now, and don't, that's, I think, so. It fell away almost because of COVID and other things. So there was I think it was only for 5 or 6 houses, but there were social housing.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. I have a memory too. Maybe Alison, can you reflect on this? Early in the lifetime of this council, we met with Housing Executive and they agreed with the concept of us meeting with them at individual DEA level to discuss opportunities for the development of social housing. And they agreed in principle to do that. They've never actioned it, so maybe we should be writing back to them along those lines of seeking to have those DEA meetings, because it's your point, Tommy, too, about the ability to borrow. The ability to borrow was given, the power to borrow was given. And we all have ideas in our respective DEAs about where there could or should be social housing developments. So I would be asking for that to be included in any response. But where are we now? We're going to go to Councillor Green and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. This is something that I have been raising from I became a councillor a number of years ago. I remember previously to that, I was chair of the Union Development Association for a number of years, and we had a couple of these housing needs surveys and that done in the local community centre, and we had, I think, 40, near 50 people in saying they would be interested and signing up to this. Now, when both of them were done, the housing executive came back and said there was no interest and there was no demand. And the criteria they use is that you have to be almost homeless to actually get register as there being a demand. And my point always was these people maybe probably were housed somewhere else, maybe Enniskillen or Irvinstown or Maguire's Bridge, but they were originally from Cunyon. And if the houses had been built in Cunyon, they would then have freed up houses in Enniskillen, in Irvinstown, and other places. But that's not the way that the housing executive does it. And I think the council has written numerous times pointing that out, and we have got piecemeal answers on it, and but nothing has ever changed in the criteria of it. And until that criteria is actually changed, I don't think we're going anywhere with this, because areas like Cunyon and kind of small rural settlements and that is never going to qualify for demand as they see it. But as I said before, them houses would free up houses then in other towns. So just to point that out, I don't think there's hardly any point in writing or anything again at the meeting that we're having. I will raise that again, and no doubt it'll be ignored again. But just to raise that point.
Okay, Councillor Thompson, and then after that it'll be Councillor O'Reilly.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair, for that. I have the memory of what you're talking about there with regard to the DEA, the district electoral area meetings, and I think that will be a very useful thing, particularly with to do with the urban areas and especially with the two large towns of Ormond and Enniskillen. But DEA meetings would be an excellent idea, and it had been discussed before, from my memory, within this term. So if I'm happy to support you in that if you need a seconder there, Chair, with regard to that. Thank you.
That's very good, thanks. because we have knowledge of sites that are available, may become available, all that kind of thing. And they should be actively consulting us if they're serious. Okay, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Chair. And just to follow in on the latent demand testing issue there that Seamus was speaking of, it's certainly something that I have highlighted on a number of occasions as well, where we are looking for people to put their names down, then go forward and provide evidence of their need for addition to the housing list, but that there is no specific housing availability for quite some time, and certainly the proposed new building could take a number of years before they materialize on the ground. So it is very hard to motivate people to be able to look that far forward in their lives to be initiating a process. And we certainly did bring this up with Housing Executive and got the reply that they, while they had changed some criteria in it, this was still going to be the way that they assess need in areas. And I too, like Seamus, would contend that this is in actual fact a way of limiting housing in small rural areas and allowing dispersed rural communities and indeed small towns like Newton Butler and other small towns to actually grow and to be able to provide housing for local people, because we tend to then find that these local people have to move to the bigger towns and to areas outside of where they would have naturally wanted to stay. And, you know, having said all of that, we still have rural housing associations that want to build and to acquire properties in these small numbers of properties, but they're still very important in the rural areas. And while they work with the Housing Executive and through the latent demand testing, it is very difficult for them to be able to move forward and provide the homes that they want to be able to provide. And that is going to be a case in point in Newton Butler on the Monday, the 20th of February. There's a latent demand testing event going on in the community centre from 5 to 7, and we will see how many people, even though it has been well advertised, actually avail of that opportunity to go on the 20th of February. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. Okay, members, we've went far and wide there in relation to the topic of housing. The letter was quite specific about review of allocations, housing selection scheme, all that type of thing. But we'll have this upcoming meeting, which is very important. And in the meantime, Alison, have you anything further to say?
No, Chair, other than we will notify the Housing Executive in advance of those points so that hopefully they'll come in a position to be informed, to provide members with informed comments together with the previous commitments around the DEA meetings and what scope there would be for an engagement at that level between now and obviously the election. So we'll follow up on that basis, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And agreed, members. Moving on now, other correspondence?
Sorry, Chair, just one item of other correspondence just received today, and it's regarding an online information event about a new International Fund IFI funded project, which is looking at primary school provision and education in border areas, which is obviously something the Council has previously expressed interest in, Chair. It's on Monday, the 13th of February at 3:30, led by Ulster University, and it's online. And Chair, the registration details are there. They're obviously keen to political engagement as part of the process. So we would just be at this stage recommending it's noted and members and parties would register accordingly if they wish to participate.
Okay. And would they register through Democratic Services or just themselves directly?
Just themselves, Chair. Given the timescale, I think it's easier for the university if you go directly through them.
Thanks very much. Councillor Donnelly.
No, Chair, I'm more than happy to propose noting. It seems very relevant to our particular district, so no, happy to note.
Okay, and the seconding of that noting will come from
Chair.
Councillor Maguire. Thank you. Or it would have come from Councillor Riley either on WebEx, but I couldn't see you waving, Thomas. I could see Thomas.
That two Tommies in one room's always confusing, Chair. just to say, Chair, that this is a vital topic for our local primary schools. And while reading that correspondence, it is all seemingly at this point to be an academic exercise to some degree or another. And whether this will actually lead on to direct help or support for primary schools is yet to be decided. But welcome the initial start.
Thank you. I was always intrigued, Councillor Riley, by the fact that education was an area of cooperation in the Good Friday Agreement, you know, and not much developed in that area of education. But Councillor Clark, do you want to say something?
Yeah, very simple. What is defined as a border area? You know, is it the whole council, part of the council, or because that could be.
Well, Chair, my understanding is it will be the entirety of the border corridor, essentially from the Donegal right the way around to Loud. I think I don't think this geography specific. I think it's it's council specific in terms of geography. I think it's the entirety of Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland border. But today's notification, as you saw, we received it earlier, is the first that I've been aware of the project.
Okay.
So we'll hear more, I'm sure, on Monday.
Okay, interesting question. Thank you. So, any other correspondence?
No, Chair, that concludes.
Okay, that's great. We'll move now to item 11, and we'll have a notice of motion. 11.1, blood donation appointments. And I think it's Councillor Gannon, of course. Councillor Gannon is going to propose, and Councillor Blake is going to second. So I shall go straight away to Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll just take the motion as read. I think, as with a lot in society, COVID-19 has changed a lot. A lot changed, and most has returned to normal, but some changes have remained. Even look at ourselves tonight at the hybrid. Some changes good, some maybe not as good. But blood donation has changed, and it has remained changed since then. And prior to COVID, as many people here probably know, as I'm sure many of the councillors here have donated blood previously, blood donations were done on a walk-in basis. And when blood donations restarted, it became a requirement to make an appointment to be able to donate blood. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But since COVID, blood donations have decreased. In January 22, the Blood Transfusion Service reported that blood donations fell by a third at a time when blood stocks were already significantly down due to issues caused by the pandemic. And it's been confirmed that there are fewer donors booking appointments, and that over the past year, there have been a high number of cancellations and no-shows even amongst those who've booked appointments. And again, in October 22, just a couple of months ago, blood supplies were urgently low at a time when demand for those blood supplies was actually rising, as they're needed for any surgery. To have any routine surgery, no matter what it is, you need to have a blood supply there. And the demand was rising because of there's been an effort to catch up on the massive backlog of surgery. And if blood supplies did drop further and do drop, there's serious consequences. In the same month of October last year, there was an amber alert in England for critically low blood stocks, and this resulted in very necessary operations being cancelled and delayed, adding further to waiting lists. And we have much worse waiting lists here, and we don't want the problem of disastrously long waiting lists to be exacerbated by something that is avoidable. To make an appointment to donate blood, you must phone the Blood Transfusion Service, and you either wait on hold or leave a message. Now, the appointment system does have its benefits, as there's no longer rush periods. I know, like many other people maybe who have donated blood, you've went in maybe after work and there's a big queue, but you don't mind waiting if you're there to donate. But the benefit is that rush period's gone, and long waits for donors are gone as a result of that, and allows some to plan ahead. But unfortunately, the phone line is incredibly difficult to get through on. Many donors expressed frustration with this to me, and whilst it's undoubtedly good that the phone line to donate and make appointments is so busy, it has prevented many from making appointments as they can't get through. And the phone hours are quite restrictive, especially for anyone who works. The number closes at 4:30 Monday to Friday. It's not open at the weekend.
You can leave a message, which the transfusion staff will get back to you on, which is brilliant that they do, but you have to be available to pick up whenever they happen to phone you, which again, for many working people, just isn't the reality that they can get to the phone, and they may miss out. Now, it might work well for some, the timing might work well, but for some people, it's simply not possible. And one of the things that kind of brought this motion on for myself was when I experienced this phone system myself. I hadn't donated since COVID because I'd always walked in, and I just, decided, right, I've got the letter, I'm going to make an appointment, waited on hold, eventually left a message, and they tried to get back to me, but as a teacher, I couldn't pick up the phone like so many other working people. But I was determined. So over the course of that week, I spent between 3 and 4 hours on hold to try and make an appointment. And the staff are fantastic once I got through, but they're just very busy. And not everyone could wait 3+ hours on hold to make an appointment. So to make getting an appointment more accessible and to encourage more blood donations, in particular for younger and working people, I think it's necessary to introduce an online appointment booking system or bring back some sort of walk-in appointments in whatever level that the transfusion service deem appropriate, because low blood stocks are becoming a regular occurrence. And in October, when blood stocks were low, the transfusion service did bring in an online booking system, and it did work well to increase blood stocks. But it was only temporary. But you would imagine, as it's been done once, it'd be easy to re-implement. And it could also run in conjunction with the current phone-in system to allow those who prefer that way of making appointments to continue booking in that way.
Adam, your 5 minutes is concluding now, just.
No problem. Well, I'll just get to my concluding point, Chair, then. We have to recognise the selfless donation of many blood donors. Blood donation takes 30 minutes, but could save up to 3 lives. And in the spirit of the motion, we just want to increase blood donation, make it more accessible, and help encourage people to donate blood and make that easier and deal with any of the and prevent any of the consequences of low stock. Thank you, Chair.
And Adam, you'll have 3 minutes at the end of this motion, as you know.
100%.
Councillor Blake.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to second the motion. Blood donation is very important to the run of our health service. It's not only used to save lives in emergency situation, but routine operations also rely on blood stocks remaining at a healthy level, as without a sufficient blood supply, operations will be cancelled with many missing out on vital treatment. Donating blood is an act of solidarity by donors to help others. The health service with a short half hour of their time. I would like to praise and thank all blood donors for their generosity. Reports of low blood supply are becoming more common since COVID, and this is not only linked to individuals maybe being more cautious since COVID, but also to the phone-only appointment service. I've spoken with the blood transfusion service and the phone-only booking system, and they've said they've made a choice to go to phone only, as many donors were older and may have preferred a phone system. This is totally understandable, and this motion does not remove the phone booking system, but simply seeks to add an additional method to book appointments that do not require long hold times on the phone. As was stated, the blood transfusion service previously ran an online booking system in October for a limited time via SurveyMonkey, which worked well, but this was only temporary. An online booking system does work to increase blood donations, and it should be implemented on a permanent basis. The previous online system was via SurveyMonkey, but the motion is not prescriptive on how an online system should be implemented, as it should be flexible to match the staffing and administration that the transfusion service has. It could be as simple as an email system, or perhaps something more elaborate, but something quick and easy to implement should be used. The motion also allows for the return of a walk-in donations. Again, this is flexible to allow some retention of the appointment system and to take account of any medical or staffing requirements that the blood transfusion have. This motion is flexible, as the spirit of the motion is simply to encourage and increase blood donations and the number of donors at this time, and realise just how important it is. So I'm happy to second this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Moving now straight away to Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I just want to commend Councillors Gannon and Blake for highlighting this issue and bringing it forward as a motion. Of course, I wholeheartedly support this motion, Chair. It's absolutely vital in the delivery of healthcare services, that patients have ready access to blood at all times. And the Northern Ireland Blood Transfusion Service do excellent work, and it's amazing actually how they were able to sustain their service throughout the pandemic. But I agree with the proposal, Chair, that, you know, when people are generous enough to give up the time to donate their blood, then I think that, you know, the Northern Ireland Blood Transfusion Service should facilitate that in whatever way they can. And increasingly, Chair, people are booking appointments online, and I think it is fitting and appropriate that that option should also be offered to blood donors. So happy to support the motion, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. And yeah, I really want to thank Councillors Gannon and Blake for bringing this forward, because I think it does actually touch on one of the fundamental lessons that we should have learned from the pandemic, which is that where possible, we should try to provide flexibility and choice for people in terms of how they live their lives. And I think that actually the spirit of this actually chimes with how most people live their lives, or certainly wish to live their lives. As certainly, I think the first time I ever donated blood many years ago was not as a result of a formal booking online, but because I spotted a social media post, and then the next day I dropped into a donation drive in Oma. So I think that the motion is very much commonsensical in that regard. And honestly, Chair, I would just wish to close just by actually appealing to people out there, because I think that there's a significant number of people who have always thought about donating blood, but perhaps have always just been put off in the last instance by a bit of ickiness, maybe by a bit of fear of the unknown. And actually, I think that just from this public forum, we should just say that this is a very smooth and actually quite easy process. The staff who undertake the blood donations are incredibly friendly and professional, and it's one of the easiest things that you can spend an afternoon doing. So happy to give my support and that of Alliance for this motion, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. And I'll go to Councillor McCann now. Then back in the chamber, it'll be Councillor Thompson. Councillor McCann and WebEx.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And I also just want to thank the SDLP for bringing this motion forward. It's very timely, Chair. In Trillick at the moment, and just in the last couple of days, in the last week, a young mother has been diagnosed with APL. It's a very acute form of leukemia, and blood transfusions was life-saving in her case. It gave her the strength to get up to Belfast City Hospital, where she's now undergoing a 8-week intensive course of treatment. So, of course, we want to send our good wishes to them. But her family have embarked on a campaign to create awareness of blood donation and the life-saving nature of blood donation and the importance of it, Chair. So this motion is very timely. And I would just like to echo Councillor Donnelly's appeal to people out there, you know, if you aren't a blood donor, to please consider it. And I also would like to ask maybe the Council Chair, and I know if this requires a proposal, maybe that we can maybe through our social media channels create awareness as well, or maybe a short campaign about blood donation and maybe the times and locations of some blood donation sessions in our area. But it is a very worthwhile motion. Very happy to support it. And I want to just send good wishes to the family and Trillick who are going through this at this time, and of course everybody else who's going through ill health as well, Chair. Thank you.
Just your own proposal there, Councillor McCann. Maybe we'll take it under any urgent, just to separate it out from the wording of the motion. You know.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, if that's okay. Yeah.
I think I was a procedural expert, wouldn't you? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And first of all, I'd like to thank Councillors Gannon and Blake for bringing this timely motion forward. It is indeed a very important issue within the district and obviously throughout Northern Ireland. And on behalf of the Democratic Unionist Party, I want to get into the motion, particularly with regard to the last 2 paragraphs of it. And certainly we want to lend our support to this motion at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Councillor Warrington.
Again, there's not much to add, just on the back of what everybody else has said. Welcome the motion from the 2 councillors, and certainly it is very timely, because I think those of us who watch the news knows that there is a severe shortage of blood out there at the moment. So we welcome this motion, and on the back of Councillor McCann, I think it's something we could all do that's on social media and whatever, is to encourage those people out there to donate blood. But the Unionist Party will be voting in favour of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and yeah, obviously with the clarification from Councillor Blake that this is an additional method of booking an appointment and not replacing any of the other modes, I'm more than happy to support. Just being mindful, obviously, with internet connectivity problems that we do have across the district. Thankfully, I haven't experienced any of the same problems that Councillor Gannon referred to. Any time I was booking an appointment, I was straight through to a helpful advisor. The phone call can be quite long because you do have to give quite a few details and arrange your appointment, pick a suitable time and all that. But very much like giving blood, it's a fairly painless procedure overall. I would have to note just from following, I suppose, the blood transfusion service online, that this is something that in terms of the walk-in appointment seems to be opening up again, particularly in terms of community and outreach ventures. Like I believe the Patrician Hall recently at the end of the month there, at the end of January, had one which did have walk-in appointments available. And I know that the last time I gave blood prior to the pandemic was out in the pub rooms in Greencastle. So there is a great community ethos and a community spirit amongst sports clubs and other clubs that do facilitate this, which is great to see. And much like a number of councillors have said, anything we can do to help promote that, because you have obviously the benefits of that. You're given blood, you're given a chance to life or a chance to heal to other people. And it also serves as a wee bit of a health checkup for yourself, because you do get your own bloods tested there prior to donating. So if anything we can do to up the numbers and get people from our district out, as previous councillors said, it's not a long process. It's very worthwhile. It's fairly painless, and the staff to date that I've had to deal with have all been extremely pleasant, extremely reassuring, extremely professional. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McAleer. And I'm going to go now to Councillor Gannon. I think that's you there, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thanks to all the councillors for their support. There was a few important points made. You know, Councillor Donnelly about how he first donated blood, same as myself, driving past St Mary's School in Irvinstein, thinking, I have a bit of time here, why not go in and sign up and donate? And that's the same as so many people. And there's been so many stories of benefits. I know Councillor Garrity had been chatting to me about that specific issue with an individual in Trillick that Councillor McCann raised there. And it's great to see the positive impact and hear just one story of the positive impact of blood donation. And of course, very happy to support when it comes up in the AOB, Councillor McCann's proposal. Would have been happy to incorporate it, but obviously procedurally we can't. And, you know, the only other point was on Councillor McAleer. He was lucky he didn't have a wait and he maybe had the time, but it's luck of the draw, and we want to eliminate that. We want to eliminate that variable. We want to just encourage more people to donate blood, and I'd just like to take the opportunity to pay tribute to all the staff involved. They're brilliant. They're absolutely excellent. I haven't heard anyone say a bad word about blood donation staff, whether it be on the phone or in person. They're all fantastic. And finally, Chair, just to round out, if anyone's listening and if we can get the message out that if you can donate and you have the time, give it a go, even if it's the first time, and give it a go, and you could save a few lives doing it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Adam. And that's agreed, members. That motion's passed unanimously, of course it is. Thank you. Now, members, we are at item 12 in the agenda, any urgent and relevant business. Councillor Baird, I think, disposed of his matter earlier. And I'll go now to Councillor Chris McCaffrey, Crease Store, Liddahull.
Gur Mogad a Caherly, agus Gur Mila Mogad as Mela gets a shock list show. Thank you, Chair. I just have two items and I'll try to be as brief as I can. The first item really relates to how I think Fermanagh, and in particular the town of Enniskillen, can be transformed with murals and paying tribute to people who've come before us. I think all the elected members and staff, the council can agree that Kevin McHugh has done fantastic work in terms of transforming Enniskillen town into sort of a public art gallery and really lifting the spirit and the entire look of the town. I'm always just stunned when I walk around and see these murals he's created. It's fantastic. But I do think we can do a little bit more as a council to incorporate some of our most famous people who've been from this district, this area, and who've went on and achieved great things. And I know this is never an easy task to make a list of people who deserve commendation. Indeed, lots of people do and rarely receive it. But I know in the past,
Single out somebody, Chris. You're going to single out somebody that you believe in,
yeah.
and you'll obviously do this in the context of the Enniskillen place shaping plan as well. But can you come to the point of your proposal?
Indeed. Well, I think that people such as Joan Trimble and people like Oscar Wilde deserve more commendation. So I know in the past there was an Ulster History Circle, a blue plaque, which was designed in honor of Joan Trimble, who was a famous composer and teacher, pianist, and of course proprietor of the Impartial Reporter. And I think again that we do have, of course, the bursary in her honor, which is given out to talented performers and musicians every year, and I think that's a fantastic tribute. But I would like to see this enhanced in some way. And I also feel rightfully that people like Hugh Maguire, A. McGeer, from the Gaelic lineage, from that Gaelic history, deserve more representation. So I would love to see if council could come up with some way of doing this. And I'm talking perhaps in murals. I know that obviously given the financial and economic circumstances we find ourselves in, this may be more of a long-term project.
You've half a minute for your second item.
Okay, well, to move on then, Chair, to the second item then is just very quickly in relation to flooding in the Drumderg Road in Timor. It's been highlighted to road service on a number of occasions by people in the area and by myself. However, this year has seen the road really deteriorate into a shocking condition on a very bad corner of the road. There's severe flooding, which is became very close to causing severe accidents. Just in the month of January, there was a couple of close calls. The persistent flooding there has left it nearly impossible for people on that road to use that road, and it is also beginning to cause mold issues in people's homes, which is why it was brought to my attention. People are actually having serious mold issues on their walls and kitchen units, and I know that obviously all of us would be concerned about that if people are living in those kind of conditions. So I would just ask that the council, that everyone here could be in agreement that the council would write to road service, alert them about the conditions on the Drumderg Road, and that could be rectified as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. Okay, Alison may want to come in a second. Seamus Green is indicated in the midst. Seamus, do you want to add value to what Chris has just said?
Well, I just wanted a second, if it needed a seconder for his proposal there, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Alison.
No, Chair, happy to progress. Just in relation to the first area around the murals and so on, as you've indicated, the Enniskillen place shaping plan is just out for consultation recently, and that would be the appropriate venue for us to consider, or the forum for us to consider murals or other artistic representation within the town centre. What I would note just in terms of murals, and members will be aware, the conservation area for Enniskillen, and indeed the vast majority of buildings are in private ownership. So I think we can look more generally around how both people associated with Enniskillen as well as the most famous residents and citizens are commemorated, but we'll do that through the place shaping work, Chair.
Okay, and it's relevant to this, Councillor Garrity?
Yes, just briefly, Chair, to say I have no issue. I think Councillor McCaffrey wants to have this investigated, and that certainly, as he did allude to, it could be a long-term project as opposed to a short-term one, and whether it's viable or not as part of the investigation, really. But I suppose my only undertone would be, I know I've been approached and sent on to the relevant director, extreme expertise in certain areas, wishing to give back to the council, and basically they were coming to me with their talents, let's just say, free of cost. So I do know the financial restraints were under going ahead. So if that's something to bear in mind and during that investigation, that where these special pieces of commissioned art, one thing or another, if they were coming, it's nice when someone offers to do them for nothing, because
Okay.
that's the best way going forward when we're in such financial difficulty. But that'll be all part of the investigation, I'm sure, Chair. Thank you.
That's great. Very briefly, Councillor McCann.
Separate note, Chair, just in relation to that piece of AOB. Is
Why-
now like
Oh,
time to
I
be
will
not?
come- your own proposal, I'll come to that, but I need to tidy up this one here, Stephen.
Oh, yeah, surely.
Thank you. Councillor Gannon, just need to conclude on this.
Thank you, Chair. Just very brief. Thanks to Councillor McCaffrey for raising the Drumder Road there. It is a repeat issue. It's been raised multiple times, and it's very appropriate that at this stage the council right to try and solve something, because there's only so long that councillors can keep ploughing away at it and knocking away at it. And obviously I know Chris and others have been at that. So thanks to him for raising it tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, just a question for the Chief Executive, I suppose, on the procedure. If we were to put plaques commemorating individuals anywhere in the district, I assume it would come to a council meeting, and the full council would have input under our current procedures. I'm just aware of current debate surrounding commemorations for people all over the world at the minute, and perhaps they've done something in their history that isn't savoury in the modern age, and I'm just want to get ahead of it now, as opposed to anything, coming down the line, like vandalism and the like.
Almost like developing a policy, council policy. Okay, and finally, Councillor Baird.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't specifically know the Drumderg Road or the problem with it, but I must admit I find it strange coming up tonight when we had our Earn West meeting with the council on Monday. I would have thought that would have been a more appropriate way to raise it rather than in the general council chamber.
Okay,
Comment.
there's two elements. There's the arts and who you honour and who you don't honour, and then there's the roads issue. So thank you. That item is now dealt with. Moving on, Councillor Catherine Kelly.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for letting me in. Since I've been in contact with you, Chair, I have heard from John News, and I have been in communication with the Chief Executive and John throughout the week on my issue. Carrickmore Recycling Centre has become a huge problem here, with lack of access for locals, for businesses. Now, the closures are regrettable, and we all know what's going on. But I've been, asking if it's possible to have a better means of communication to businesses and families and those using the recycling centre from the council. For example, the Patrician Hall were in touch with me about this past weekend. They had 1,200 very welcome visitors to the hall for dancing in the fish. But it left a large amount of material that should go to the recycling centre, which has now had to be stored in someone's house or their garage. So what I'm asking is it possible for the council to communicate more clearly specific days that the recycling centre can be opened, and also to consult with the local businesses in the area to find out what would be suitable days to be open, what would actually be the optimal days for them to be open for businesses getting rid of debris, let's say on a Monday after a long weekend of trading, or on a Friday for construction workers. So I just think that we put the cart before the horse. And we've closed to the recycling centre on days without properly figuring out how we could best accommodate our businesses and families in the area. Thanks, Chair, for letting me in, and thanks, John, today for all your work on this today. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Kelly. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. No, happy enough to second that. It's something again that I've been in contact with the director about. I note that the last correspondence that we received was sent to all councillors across the DA towards the end of January, indicating that it could extend to a period of up to 4 weeks. And I realise at this point we're actually halfway through that, so hopefully it's not something that it is going to extend much longer. But I suppose the issue here is that people are finding out on the morning that the recycling centre is going to be closed that day and possibly for a number of days thereafter. So it's giving people a heads up, letting them know and letting them be able to plan around that. And I realise the circumstances around that, and I'll not go into that in detail in the meeting, but it's just really being a bit more proactive and being a bit more user friendly in terms of the local community, and that extends, I suppose, not just to the business community but to the community in general who do actually use that facility. So happy enough second that one, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. People have said to me in rural areas that the rural recycling centres Saturday is very important. You know, so all of these opinions are being expressed, but Alison wants to respond. Oh, sorry. Councillor Barton first.
Okay, I would agree with everything that has been said so far. Can I also extend that to maybe public conveniences? They are very often closed, again, closed at short notice, that some people don't know that they are closed, etc. And especially for passing traffic through some of the areas. I know in Mid-Tyrone that has been a problem in the past.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Okay, over to you, Alison.
Chair, just briefly thank members, and I know as Councillor Kelly said, there's been a fair bit of communication on this, so for their feedback. Obviously, in anything we can do to improve communications, we would seek to do. I think as Councillor McAleer has alluded to, I mean, we do have core hours which we promote, endeavour to operate. Occasionally there are circumstances where on the day we ourselves have to deal with the situation more dynamically, and on that basis we would notify more via social media, but certainly if we've to improve the communications we will do so. In terms of the consultation with businesses and the wider community, certainly always happy to take views on board, but I think we need to recognise we have a finite resource. We will deliver the service that we can, and certainly we would hope that business and others would work with us, but it wouldn't be a matter of us being able to work or for the businesses to direct the days that we would be open, just to be clear on that basis. But certainly anything further around engagement and communications that we can improve, we're happy to do that and take the comments on board.
Okay, thank you. Now, Councillor Glenn Campbell.
Thanks for taking me in under AOB. Chairman, you and along with other councillors attended a very well attended event on Monday the 23rd of January in the Tyrone GA Centre in Gervahi, and it was the launch of the A5 Enough is Enough campaign, and you know, it was standing room only up in Gervahi, and it was a very emotional event, certainly emotional listening to those people who spoke very courageously about losing loved ones as a result of our roads. And I commend those who spoke on the night, and I commend Tyrone County Board, Tyrone J for organising the event. And I would just like to say that really it was so important to hear those voices. It was so important to support that campaign, and the community has been uplifted by the campaign and the resolve of those families and the resolve of the A5 Enough is Enough campaign group. And I'd like, Chairman, for yourself to invite the group in to meet our council in whatever way would be appropriate over the next period to support them in their campaign, to see what we can do to add to the momentum as we all demand action on the delivery of the A5. Chairman,
Thank you very much. And I'm just going to maybe anticipate here that Councillor Rennie would second that. Take the mic there, Al.
Of course, Chair, but I did say that we do need to have a comprehensive getting together. You know, there doesn't seem to be a coming from any one particular party or grouping, and wherever we can find a neutral, that people feel that it's a neutral venue to come together, I think that would maybe make progress.
Okay, very interesting.
On this.
Okay. Presume the GA are taking forward their initiative. They're encouraging others to do the same, you know, like let there be 1,000 initiatives, that type of thing. But interesting point that you said.
Okay.
Now I need to go back to Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Campbell, for raising this matter. And yes, I too would like to commend the Tyrone GAA County Board on their initiative. Chair, you will be aware that this council has worked tirelessly to promote the A5 transport corridor, and we regret the delay, but especially we regret the very significant loss of life. So I think it is appropriate that we should show support for this initiative and invite the campaign directors along to the council to listen to them and to support their initiatives. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. The event in Garbahi was very well attended from what I hear, but I just wanted to come in strongly behind my colleague, Councillor Rainey, as I am aware of people who, from the Garbahi area, from Newton Savile Esker area, who didn't go to the event because of where it is and what I suppose what the GA Centre represents to them and maybe the inclusiveness. So I just do think, I suppose all councillors from all parties do need to be careful going forward that we don't end up sectarianising the A5 campaign, because wouldn't that be an absolute disaster? Thank you, Chair.
My personal view is very strong on this, is that the GAA took an initiative and that they would similarly welcome other sporting organisations, farming organisations, community bodies, doing the same, because everybody owns the A5 campaign. It is so essential. So, Councillor Kelly.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to second Councillor Glenn's proposal, and I also want to support your comments. I think it's up to every group to take their initiative. The initiative the GAA did. It should be a very inclusive campaign, but I don't think the GAA were being exclusive. And I do think that rugby clubs, soccer clubs, any canoeing clubs, everybody can take up a campaign for the A5. I think one of the important points that needs to be stated here tonight is that the objectors must stop, because the A5 and the tragedies on the A5 are going to continue if that road is delayed any further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Rainey did second that, so we're content procedurally on that point. But thanks to all the contributions that were made. So that's any urgent and relevant business. Councillor Coyle, sorry. Oh, sorry, I need to come to Councillor McCann just to tidy up that proposal that he made during the debate, the motion, and then I'll come to Councillor Coyle.
Okay, thanks, Chairman, for allowing that. I know it didn't come to you, but thanks for accommodating that request. And it's just on the back of the motion where I propose that the council would use its resources in terms of social media platforms and other ways maybe to promote the ethos of blood donation and the importance of it, and also a platelet as well, Chair. What do you call it? The platelet donation as well. It can be done through your blood session. You just have to make yourself known that you might want to give platelets, and I think that's very important in some illnesses as well. So very happy to support that motion earlier on, and happy to bring forward that proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McCann. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. I don't know whether I'm actually able to say this, but I was listening to the meeting on my drive down, so I missed commenting on the Costa crisis situation.
We can't do that now, Debbie.
No, I don't.
There's strict rules. We can't go back to the cost of living.
No, I know that.
But if you would like to second Councillor McCann's proposal,
I will second Councillor McCann's proposal. Yeah.
If you're of such a mind.
Okay,
yeah. And allow you a very brief point if it's.
All I was going to ask is one of the issues that has come from the difficulties that people are suffering is gambling.
Okay.
It's become a really serious addiction and it's affecting a lot of people. And I was just going to request if we could organise the organisation Gambling with Lives, which is local in Irvinstown. If they could come and give a presentation to councillors about the seriousness of what's going on locally and globally and the amount of children, adults, parents.
Okay, that's noted. And thank you for seconding that. Okay,
thank you.
I have other contributors now. I think I had Mary, but you might have gone. Have you, Mary? No.
Very briefly, Chair, to help you procedurally, was that a proposal there?
Yeah.
Debbie, well, just to help you procedurally, Chairman, I'll second that there because I know it's a bit out of it was extra business, which is fair enough. And just to, as alluded to the family that has been in question, we know, I certainly am thinking a lot about them, and it's great the motion that Adam raises timely, and I certainly support that proposal that Stephen's made on the back of it. Thank
Okay,
you,
thank you
Chair.
very much. And Councillor Armstrong.
It was also to support the Gambling Lives presentation, yes, and the work they do, and to raise awareness locally. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Debbie.
Okay, that's all my AOB. You're very creative there, Debbie, the way you got in there. I'm not sure how that happened, you know, but it seems to have got approval across the room. But you will be spoken till now by the officials afterwards. Okay. So I need a proposer and seconder now to go into committee. Mark was first and Paul was second. Thank you. Councillor Buchanan and Councillor Robinson. have proposed. So does that take time? Okay. Thank Adam and Michael for their help this evening. Give us the nod whenever you're ready to. Okay, got the nod. Over to you, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. Just to advise, while in confidential business, the Council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the Council meeting held on the 10th of January. There were no matters arising from those minutes. Also confirmed the confidential minutes of the Environmental Services Committee, the Regeneration and Community Committee and the Policy and Resources Committee meetings.
Okay. Proposer and second of that report, Councillor Warrington, Councillor Gannon. Okay. So we're in public affairs. Can I just make one comment as we conclude this meeting? You know, there's obviously a number of issues. I don't particularly want to open it up to the floor, but if you indulge me for a second, you know, there's lots of things happening out there, big stuff like the SWA consultations, A5, sports achievements, all kinds of stuff going on out there. But there's one thing, and I think it would be remiss of us as a council not to mention it, and I'm going to mention it now. There was an announcement regarding the establishment of an independent inquiry into the 1998 Oma bombing. I welcome this and we welcome this as a council. And very important that the circumstances surrounding this tragedy, this atrocity are fully investigated. And families and community deserve truth and justice in all cases. I think I want to leave it at that tonight, if that's okay, members. Thanks very much. Meeting has ended.